Okay, Digimap data for Revit. Extracting data to build a site model. Okay, so let's dive straight in there. Let's just quit out of this. Okay, and first thing to do is we need to go to the Digimap website. You can just Google Digimap, or the correct address is there, digimap.edina.ac.uk. And just to explain briefly, Digimap is a mapping service provided by the University of Sheffield, the University of Edinburgh, and the University of Sheffield has a subscription to that service. Some architectural practices have a subscription, and there are other mapping services available as well. So depending on which practice you might be working in, you may have a subscription to a mapping service, you may not. Sometimes in practice nowadays, the site information might be provided to the architect, possibly by the civil engineer or by other members of the team or by the client. But it's certainly a useful skill, I think, for architects to be able to access information and use that to build a site model. Right, okay, enough said about that. So here we are in Digimap. You need to log in. I'm already logged in, I'll not do it again. The first time you go here, you'll be asked to log in. Let's do it. Log out. Okay, and now log in again. Okay. You'll be asked to type in your institution, which I've already done, University of Sheffield. And as long as you're already logged into Muse, then it should just go through and it should work. All right. Now, first thing we want to do, we're going to click on the Ordnance Survey. Now you'll see along the top here, there are many other types of map, and obviously feel free to use those. The historic mapping can be really interesting. But for us, for now, we just want to click on Ordnance Survey. And we've got a few options here. Rome gives you access to two-dimensional mapping. All the Ordnance Survey maps, any scale, just like this kind of preview that you're seeing in the window at the minute. So really useful, but not what we want for now. We want the data download. And because we need some data that we can bring into a CAD or a BIM package, okay? And we have some previous versions down here as well, but let's not bother with that. So click on Data Download. Okay. And we get a map of the UK. We can use our mouse scroll wheel to zoom in a bit. And I've got a site in Sheffield that I've got in mind. Okay, we need to define the area that we want to download. Now, if you come over to the top left here, you've got some tools, so you can click and drag to define an area, and you can delete that. But I don't want to do that. I want to do it in a slightly more precise way. So what I'm going to do is switch on the reference grids here. Okay, and what I've done there, I've selected the 5 kilometer by 5 kilometer reference grids. Not necessarily because we want to model a 5 kilometer by 5 kilometer site. You might, if you have a big urban site or a big landscape site. For an architectural model, probably not. But the reason I've selected the 5K by 5K is because a lot of the mapping data comes in 5K by 5K. Okay, and by selecting a tile, we get a nicely defined, consistent piece of the city, let's say. Okay, so I'm going to write down that tile name, SK38NW. We'll go over here to use, top left, use tile name. We type it in, SK38NW. I've already used it recently when I was practicing, so it's remembered it. Okay, there's our tile selected. So the orange is now the part of the city that we will download, nothing else. Okay, Now, look on the left here. We've got all these different types of data. And when you click on the drop-down arrow, you've got even more. So there's a huge amount of options available here. A little bit bewildering, to be honest, but what I'll do is I'll guide you through the ones that are more useful to you. For any map type, if you want to find out more, click on this right arrow and you get further information. So you'll get a scale, current version, important for us, the data format. We are looking for DWGs really, because we don't want a data format we can't use in Revit in this instance. Some of the other formats are data formats that are used by civil engineers, landscape architects, other members of the design team, but often not the kind of format that architects would use. Okay, so you get a little preview there, you can see of what the kind of information would look like. Let's just close that down. So we are going to start by going into vector data, and we want vector map local. Now I know this from experience that vector map local tends to work quite well. It doesn't slow your computer down too much in Revit. So there are other types, but that's the one I generally prefer, and it works. If we look on the information there, it's 1 to 10,000 and it comes in DWG format, and it's a 5 by 5 kilometer tile, which is perfect. Okay, so we know that the map we want is a vector map local, which as you can see comes in a DWG format. Click on that, add it to basket. Select the format, which is DWG, and generally for the version just select the latest version. Okay, we can request the download now, but let's go and get a few more bits of information first. So click on add more data, just minimize that. So we've downloaded now a kind of a good quality DWG map that will show all the roads, the buildings and so on. Now let's get some three-dimensional information about the heights, the shape of the land. So what we want to do now is go to land and height data, and what we want are the OS Terrain 5 contours here. If we just have a little look at that, you see we've got a DWG format. The contours are 5 meters vertically, so that's a good size, and 5 kilometer by 5 kilometer tiles. Okay, you can go for a 50 meter contour, which if you were modeling let's say an entire city or a huge area of landscape, that might be more appropriate, but typically for an architectural model, select the OS Terrain 5 contours, add that to your basket. Again, you can choose a version, choose the format, which is DWG, and we're ready to go now. So request the download. Get a little reminder saying that you have to wait for the email. Right, we want to get another source of information, and what we need to do is we need to go all the way back to the home page. So click on Digimap Home, top left. This time we're going for LiDAR. So LiDAR data is laser scan information. This is collected using either drones or using other types of aerial photography, or sometimes static laser scanning with the laser scanner on a tripod. And the laser scanner basically fires its laser around and gets very, very accurate information about the dimension data of a city or a site. Okay, click on that. And we can go to previous versions, but let's just stick on the latest, LiDAR data download. Okay, so similar setup again. We zoom in, we find Sheffield, Where's it gone? There we are. Okay. Now, again, we can put our 5 kilometer reference grids on, and we could download a 5 kilometer set of data. But what I'm actually going to do is just download a 1 kilometer, and I'm going to zoom in and find my site a little bit more carefully, because I'm not going to use this kind of point cloud data to make the model. I'm using it as a reference. It won't mean anything to you till you see it. Okay, so you'll have to come back and watch the video where we actually bring the point cloud into Revit. So you just have to imagine for now it's going to be a series of points in space from a laser scanner. And yeah, so I only want to get 1 kilometer. So I'll write down this tile here. We'll type it into our tile name, which was SK3487, to select that tile. Now you could, in this instance, you could actually zoom in even closer. And sometimes when you get into Revit with the point data, it's actually easier to work with a smaller set of point data, which is just your site. But we'll stick with the 1 kilometer for now. Okay. Now again, over on the left here, we've got all sorts of different types of data. Feel free to have a look at those. There's a huge amount there. But what we want is a point cloud. Okay. And if we just click on the right-hand arrow, again, you get a bit of an explanation. The format, the data format, is an LAZ file. Now, this may sound odd, but an LAZ file is not importable into Revit, but there's another video which is going to use the Recap software to show you how to bring it into Revit via Recap. Okay, a bit complicated. Okay, so the next thing is the data is not available for all years. So the surveyors obviously have not laser scanned Sheffield every year. So sometimes when you click on a year, click on 2015, there's no data. And you have to just keep ticking away till you find it. I happen to know that 2008 does have the data. Add to basket is highlighted. Let's click on it. We don't have any options now. Let's just click request the download. All right, that will come into my inbox. So I'll just pause now, go and collect that. Okay, so I clicked on the email and we are brought to this download page. Click on download and you'll get a zip file. So that's busy downloading now. And you'll get a zip file for each data download. Open that zip file and you need to extract the data. So right click on it, extract all, put it somewhere sensible, which I haven't done. I've just thrown it into my inbox, but my downloads, sorry. But what you should do really is put it in the folder where you plan to build your site model, because later on Revit will go looking for this data, and if it's just sort of thrown somewhere on your computer, it'll never find it. Okay. You get, when you make the download, you get all this other stuff that comes with it, a load of text files telling you the rules, what you can use it for, what you can't use it for. Have a look at that, but ultimately you eventually get to the real data.